Admiral Park Min-jun stood on the bridge of the human flagship Times. Resilient Dawn, asterisk, watching the massive shape appear on the main screen. The Galactic Empire's dreadnought was bigger than any ship he had ever seen. It was dark and sharp, like a black knife cutting through space. The enemy vessel was 10 times larger than his flagship. "Sir, they're sending us a message," said Communications Officer Chen Wei-ling. Her voice was steady, but Park could see the worry in her eyes. "Put it on screen," Park ordered. He straightened his uniform and prepared to face whatever the Empire had to say. The screen flickered, then showed the face of an alien commander. The creature had gray skin and 4 eyes that glowed red. In the darkness of its bridge, its mouth was full of sharp teeth when it spoke. "I am Supreme Commander Vex of the Galactic Empire's 3rd Fleet," the alien said. Its voice was cold and harsh. "You are the leader of this primitive human military force?" Park stepped forward. "I am Admiral Park Min-jun of the Human Colonial Defense Force. State your business in our space." Commander Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your space? Human? You control barely 20 star systems. The Empire rules over 10,000 worlds. You are insects compared to our might." The alien leaned forward on its command throne. "But the Empire is merciful. We offer you one chance to surrender with honor. Give us your terraforming technology. Submit to Imperial rule. Your people will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire." Park felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his face calm. Behind him, his bridge crew waited in silence. They all knew this day would come. The Empire had been expanding toward human space for months. "And if we refuse?" Park asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then you will be destroyed," Vex replied. "Completely. Every human ship, every colony, every man, woman, and child. We will make your species extinct. This is not a threat, human. This is a promise." The alien commander touched something on his chair. "You have 72 hours to deliver your answer and your surrender. Do not test our patience. We have destroyed species far more advanced than yours." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Park looked around at his crew. They were all young people from Earth's colonies. Some were barely out of the academy. All of them were looking at him for answers. "Sir," said Tactical Officer Kim Jae-sung, "their ship has enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet. Our scanners show at least 50 more ships approaching from hyperspace. We're completely outgunned." Park nodded. The young officer was right. On paper, this was an impossible fight. The Empire's ships used technology that humans had only dreamed about. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could stop anything humans could throw at them. But Park had been preparing for this moment for 15 years. Ever since the first contact with the Empire, he had known this day would come. The Empire did not negotiate. They did not share space with other species. They conquered or they destroyed. "Send a message to all human colonies," Park ordered. Full military alert. Activate Defense Protocol 7. His crew began working at their stations. Defense Protocol 7 was something they had practiced many times, but never used. It would signal every human settlement in this part of space to begin emergency preparations. "Sir," asked Navigator Lee Young-ho, "are we really going to fight them? The odds are impossible." Park walked to the main viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were human families living on terraformed worlds that his generation had worked so hard to build. Children playing in parks under alien suns. Farmers growing food in soil that had been dead rock just decades ago. Scientists making discoveries that could help all of humanity. The Empire wanted to take all of that away. They wanted to make humans into slaves, or worse, wipe them out completely. They thought humans were weak because their ships were smaller, And their weapons were simpler. They were wrong. Park turned back to his crew. "Open a channel to the Imperial ship." "Channel open, sir," Chen Weiling reported. The screen showed Commander Vex again. The alien looked amused, probably expecting to hear humanity's surrender. "Supreme Commander," Park said clearly, "we have received your warning. We have considered your ultimatum carefully." "And?" Vex asked, leaning forward with anticipation. Park straightened his shoulders and looked directly into the alien's 4 red eyes. "Our answer is no." The alien commander's expression changed to shock, then to rage. "You heard me correctly," Park replied calmly. "We reject your ultimatum. We will not surrender our technology. We will not submit to your rule. Human space remains human." Vex stood up from his throne, his 4 eyes blazing with anger. "You foolish primitive! Do you have any idea what you have just done? We will crush you like insects." "You're welcome to try," Park said. Then he gestured to Chen, who cut the transmission. The bridge crew stared at their admiral. They had just declared war on the most powerful military force in the galaxy. But instead of fear, Park saw determination in their faces. These young people understood what they were fighting for. "Sir," said Kim Jae-sung quietly, "the enemy fleet is taking attack positions. They'll be in weapons range in 18 hours. Park nodded. "Then we have 18 hours to show them why they should have taken our refusal more seriously." He turned to his crew. "Send the signal to all ships. Let's remind the galaxy what humans can do when they're fighting for their homes." Outside the viewport, more human ships began appearing from behind asteroids and moons. They looked small and weak compared to the Imperial dreadnought. But looks could be deceiving. The Empire was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Dr. Lee Soo-jin watched her screens with satisfaction as the numbers kept changing. What started as 40 human ships an hour ago now showed over 200 contacts on the tactical display. More were appearing every few minutes. "The mining vessels from Kepler Station just dropped their camouflage," reported her assistant, Dr. Martinez. "That brings our total to 237 ships." "Good," Lee said, adjusting her glasses. "What about the civilian transports hiding in the gas giant's rings?" "Still holding position. They're running silent, just like we practiced." Martinez looked worried. "Doctor, are you sure this will work? Those aren't warships out there. They're cargo haulers, mining platforms, research vessels." Lee smiled. The young man didn't understand yet, but he would soon. "That's exactly why it will work. The Empire expects us to fight like they do. Big ships with big guns, standing in neat lines, shooting at each other until someone dies." She brought up a new display showing ship configurations. "But we're not going to fight like that. We're going to fight like humans." On the main screen, Admiral Park's face appeared. The command link connected all the ship captains and senior officers across the human fleet. Lee counted over 50 faces on the communication grid. "Status report," Park said simply. Captain Han from the mining ship Times Iron Harvest Times spoke first. "My crew has finished converting our drilling equipment. We can punch through their armor with focused particle beams. Not as powerful as military weapons, but we have a lot of them. My research team has been working on this for months," added Captain Yoon from the science vessel Times Discovery *. "We've figured out how to turn our sensor arrays into jamming equipment. We can blind their targeting systems." One by one, the captains reported their preparations. The cargo ship Times, Golden Eagle Times, had converted its loading bays into missile launchers. The hospital ship Times, Mercy Times, was ready to provide medical support and electronic warfare. Even the small courier ships had been equipped with special equipment. Lee stood up to address the group. "The Empire thinks they know everything about human technology. Their intelligence reports show them our basic ship designs from 5 years ago. They don't know about the modifications we've been making." She activated a holographic display showing a typical human cargo vessel. "This is what they expect to see." a simple transport ship with weak engines and no weapons. The hologram changed, revealing hidden compartments and modified systems. This is what they're actually going to face. Every ship in our fleet has been upgraded with adaptive technology, Lee continued. We can reconfigure our systems in minutes, not hours. A mining ship becomes a weapons platform. A research vessel becomes a command center. A transport becomes a missile boat. Admiral Park nodded approvingly. The Empire's ships are specialized. Each one is built for a single purpose. Their dreadnought is designed to destroy other warships. Their cruisers are built for planetary bombardment. Their fighters are made for space superiority. But specialization is also a weakness, Lee added. If something goes wrong with their main weapons, they can't adapt. If their shields fail, they can't reconfigure. They're locked into their design. Captain Kim from the converted freighter times, steady progress times, raised his hand. Doctor, what about their numbers? We have more ships now, but they still have better technology. Their weapons are stronger, their armor is thicker. Lee had been expecting this question. You're thinking like the Empire, Captain. You're assuming that stronger weapons and thicker armor automatically win battles. But human history proves otherwise. She changed the display to show tactical simulations. David beat Goliath not because he was stronger, but because he fought differently. The American colonists defeated the British Empire not with better uniforms, but with better tactics. The Vietnamese defeated the Americans not with bigger guns, but with better knowledge of their own territory. We know this space, Lee continued. Every asteroid, every gas cloud, every radiation field. We've been mining here, exploring here, living here for decades. The Empire is fighting in unfamiliar territory against people defending their homes. Dr. Martinez pulled up a new set of readings. Doctor, the enemy dreadnought is moving. They're trying to scan our fleet composition. Let them, Lee replied calmly. They'll see exactly what we want them to see. She activated another system, and suddenly the tactical display showed the human fleet shrinking. Ships seemed to disappear, one by one. Holographic camouflage, she explained to the surprised faces on the communication grid. We're not hiding our ships. We're making the Empire think we have fewer than we actually do. Admiral Park leaned forward in his chair. Explain. The Empire's battle computers calculate victory based on ship numbers and firepower ratings, Lee said. If they think they outnumber us 10-1 instead of 3-1, they'll attack more aggressively. They'll spread their forces out, trying to surround us quickly. And when they do that? Asked Captain Han. Then we spring the trap, Park answered, understanding immediately. They'll be expecting to fight 40 scared human ships. Instead, they'll face 300 angry ones, fighting in coordinated groups they've never seen before. Lee nodded. Every cargo hauler becomes a weapons platform. Every mining ship becomes a mobile fortress. Every research vessel becomes an electronic warfare unit. We turn their numerical advantage into a disadvantage. The communication grid buzzed with excited voices as the captains began to understand the plan. These weren't military officers, but they were smart people who had spent their lives solving problems in space. There's one more thing, Lee added, her voice becoming serious. The Empire destroys species that fight like military forces. But we're not a military force. We're families, communities, people who work together because we choose to. She gestured toward the tactical display, showing hundreds of human ships scattered across the asteroid belt. Every person on those ships volunteered to be here. The miners, the scientists, the cargo pilots, the medical teams. They're not following orders from some distant government. They're protecting their neighbors. Quote, The Empire has never faced anything like that before, Admiral Park said quietly. They don't understand what it means to fight for something you built with your own hands. Captain Yoon from the Times Discovery Times spoke up. So we're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting to stay human. 2. Exactly, Lee replied. The Empire can conquer military forces, but they've never conquered a people who refuse to be anything other than what they choose to be. The communication ended, and Lee turned back to her screens. The Imperial fleet was still approaching, confident in their superior technology and overwhelming firepower. They had no idea that every human ship contained people who had spent their entire lives learning to adapt, to innovate, to solve impossible problems with limited resources. The Empire was about to discover that there was something much more dangerous than advanced weapons or thick armor. They were about to face human ingenuity, and humans who were fighting for their homes. Captain Kim Tae-hyun gripped his command chair as the Imperial dreadnought opened fire. The massive alien ship's weapons lit up space with beams of energy that could crack planets. Where those beams touched, human ships simply vanished in bright flashes of destruction. Evasive maneuvers, Kim shouted to his crew aboard the converted freighter Times Dancing Crane *. Don't let them lock onto us. The Imperial fleet had attacked exactly as Dr. Lee predicted. They came in a straight line formation, their big ships leading smaller cruisers and fighters. It was beautiful and terrifying, like watching a storm of metal and fire sweep across space. But the human fleet didn't meet them head-on. All ships, scatter pattern 7. Admiral Park's voice crackled over the communication system. Fight like hornets, not like knights. Kim watched his tactical screen as the human ships broke apart into dozens of small groups. Instead of forming battle lines, they spread out in all directions like seeds in the wind. The Empire's neat formation suddenly found itself facing enemies from every angle. Sir, the Times, Iron Harvest Times, is beginning its attack run, reported Kim's tactical officer, Ensign Park Da-yoon. They're using their mining equipment against the enemy cruiser. Kim switched his main screen to show Captain Han's mining ship. The Times Iron Harvest Times looked nothing like a warship. It was blocky and ugly, covered with drilling equipment and ore processing machinery. But as Kim watched, those mining tools became weapons of war. The ship's main drilling laser, designed to cut through asteroids, fired at the Imperial cruiser's shield. The beam wasn't as powerful as a military weapon, but it was steady and focused. Where military lasers fired in bursts, the mining laser cut like a knife. Their shields are holding, Kim observed. But look at the power drain. Captain Han's ship had more surprises. Its ore-loading arms, built to grab chunks of rock, suddenly shot out and grabbed onto the enemy cruiser. The Imperial ship tried to shake free, but the mining ship held on tight. What is he doing? Asked Ensign Park. Kim grinned as he understood. He's using the cruiser as cover. They can't fire their main weapons at him without hitting their own ship. While the Times Iron Harvest Times held the cruiser in place, other human ships swarmed around them. Small courier vessels darted in and out, firing missiles at the cruiser's engines. A research ship used its sensor array to jam the enemy's communications. But the Empire was fighting back hard. Kim watched 3 human ships die in seconds as an Imperial destroyer found them. The alien weapons were incredibly powerful. Each hit was a kill. Sir, we're being targeted, called out his pilot, Lieutenant Choi Min-seo. Enemy fighter squadron coming at us fast. Perfect, Kim replied. Execute conversion plan Bravo. His crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Times Dancing Crane Times had been a cargo hauler before the war, designed to carry containers between colonies. But Dr. Lee's team had spent months modifying it for combat. Storage compartments opened like flowers blooming. What had looked like simple cargo pods were revealed to be missile launchers. The ship's loading crane became a weapon mount. Even the navigation deflector was reconfigured into a particle beam projector. Fire, Kim ordered. The Imperial fighters had expected to attack a helpless freighter. Instead, they flew into a storm of missiles and energy beams. 2 fighters exploded immediately. The others tried to retreat, but more human ships appeared from behind nearby asteroids. "This is Time's steady progress asterisk," came Captain Park's voice over the radio. "We have those fighters surrounded." Kim watched as Captain Park's converted transport ship revealed its own surprises. The ship's cargo doors opened, not to launch missiles, but to release clouds of tiny maintenance robots. The robots swarmed toward the enemy fighters like angry bees. "What are those doing?" asked Ensign Park Da-un. "Maintenance bots," Kim explained. "Designed to repair hull damage and clean solar panels. But if you reprogram them..." The tiny robots reached the Imperial fighters and began doing what they were designed to do: maintenance work. They started removing armor plates, disconnecting weapon systems, and generally taking the enemy ships apart piece by piece. The fighter pilots tried to shoot the robots, but there were too many of them, and they were too small to target effectively. Within minutes, the Imperial fighters were drifting helplessly as swarms of maintenance bots stripped them down to their framework. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "the enemy dreadnought is changing course. They're heading directly for Admiral Park's position." Kim looked at the main tactical display. The massive Imperial ship was trying to break through the human swarm by sheer force. Its weapons were firing continuously, destroying human ships with each shot. But for every ship it killed, 2 more appeared from hidden positions. "All ships converge on the dreadnought," Admiral Park ordered. "Time to show them what happens when they threaten our homes." Kim's ship joined dozens of others as they surrounded the giant enemy vessel. Up close, the dreadnought was even more intimidating. It was like a metal mountain covered with weapons, each one powerful enough to destroy a city. But the human ships weren't trying to destroy it with firepower. The research vessel Discovery Times fired its modified sensor array at the dreadnought's shield generators. Instead of trying to break through the shields, it was confusing them, making them flicker and weaken in some spots while staying strong in others. Mining ships used their drilling equipment to create weak points in the enemy armor. Construction vessels deployed their building nanobots, which began eating away at the ship's hull like microscopic termites. Hospital ships, which nobody expected to join the fighting, used their medical scanners to map the dreadnought's internal structure. They transmitted detailed blueprints to other ships, showing them exactly where to aim for maximum damage. "Sir, look at this," Ensign Park said excitedly. "The enemy ship is trying to reconfigure its systems, but it can't keep up with all our different attack methods." Kim nodded. That was the beauty of Dr. Lee's plan. The Imperial ship was designed to fight other warships using standard tactics. Its computer systems could calculate how to respond to energy weapons, missiles, and fighter attacks. But how do you program a computer to respond to maintenance robots? How do you defend against construction nanobots? How do you fight back against medical scanners being used as intelligence-gathering tools? "Enemy shields are failing in sections 7 and 12, reported Lieutenant Choi. "The mining ships have created breaches in their armor." "Then let's give them something to remember us by," Kim said. "All weapons. Focus on those breach points." The Times, Dancing Crane Times, and a dozen other converted ships poured their fire into the weak spots the mining vessels had created. The dreadnought's massive hull began to crack and buckle under the concentrated attack. But even damaged, the Imperial ship was still incredibly dangerous. Its main cannon swiveled toward Kim's ship, energy building up for a shot that would vaporize the Times' Dancing Crane Times completely. "Incoming fire!" shouted the pilot. "I can't evade in time." Kim closed his eyes, expecting to die. Then, the energy beam passed harmlessly overhead, striking empty space instead of his ship. "What happened?" he asked. On the screen, he could see the answer. The research, Ship Times, Discovery Times, had used its electronic warfare systems to hack into the dreadnought's targeting computer. The massive weapon had fired at where Kim's ship used to be, not where it actually was. "This is Admiral Park to all ships," came the voice over the communication system. "The enemy dreadnought is disabled. Repeat, the target is neutralized." Kim looked at the tactical display in amazement. The massive Imperial ship was still intact, but it was powerless. Its weapons were offline, its shields were down, and its engines were dead. Dozens of human ships surrounded it like wolves around a fallen giant. They had done the impossible. A fleet of converted civilian ships had defeated the most powerful warship in the galaxy. Not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. But Kim knew this was just the beginning. The rest of the Imperial fleet was still out there, and they would be much more careful now. Engineer Han Da-un wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked inside the captured Imperial fighter. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it followed logical patterns once you understood the basic principles. More importantly, it could be adapted. "Hand me the quantum coupling from the mining laser," she called to her assistant. "I think I can integrate their shield generator with our power systems." Around her, the human fleet was growing larger every hour. What had started as a desperate defense was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Ships were arriving from colonies that didn't officially exist, carrying people who weren't supposed to be there. "Ma'am," said Technician Lee from the next compartment, "we're getting reports from the outer sensor grid. 3 more human fleets just dropped out of hyperspace." Han paused in her work. "How many ships?" "Over 400, and they're all different designs. Some of them look like they've been modified with technology I don't recognize." Han smiled grimly. The Empire's intelligence had been completely wrong about humanity. They thought humans controlled 20 star systems. The truth was much more complicated. On her communication display, Admiral Park appeared alongside other fleet commanders she had never seen before. There was Admiral Chen from the Kepler colonies, Admiral Rodriguez from the Deep Range settlements, and Admiral Okafor from the Far Reach Exploration Fleet. "Status report," Admiral Park said simply. Admiral Chen spoke first. "The Kepler fleet stands ready. 200 ships, mostly converted industrial vessels. We've brought the mobile shipyard from Kepler 7. We can repair and refit damaged ships in real time. The Deep Range fleet reports operational, RECID, range fleet." Admiral Rodriguez added, 150 ships, including our experimental vessels. We've been testing new technologies beyond Imperial sensor range for 3 years. Admiral Okafor's weathered face showed satisfaction. "Far Reach Exploration brings 90 ships and something special. We've made contact with 3 other species that the Empire displaced. They've agreed to provide intelligence and technical support." Han watched the Imperial commander's face on another screen. Supreme Commander Vex looked like he was seeing ghosts. His 4 red eyes were wide with shock and growing fear. "This is impossible," Vex was saying to his own officers. "Our intelligence shows humans have 47 ships total across all their territories. How are there suddenly over 800 human vessels?" One of his subordinates, a younger alien with pale blue skin, replied nervously, "Sir, it appears our intelligence was incomplete. The humans have been hiding colonies throughout this sector. Some of their settlements don't appear on any official records." "Hidden colonies?" Vex roared. "How do you hide entire star systems?" Han knew the answer to that question. Humans had learned early that the Empire tracked civilizations through their energy signatures and communication broadcasts. So human settlements had learned to hide. They used minimal power, communicated through quantum encrypted channels, and built their facilities inside asteroids and gas giants where scanners couldn't detect them. The Empire saw what humans wanted them to see: a small, primitive civilization with a few obvious colonies. They had completely missed the vast network of hidden settlements that had been growing for decades. "Engineer Han," Admiral Park's voice brought her attention back to the communication. "What's your status with the captured technology?" "Good news, sir," Han replied. "Their systems are compatible with ours, but they're much more rigid. Their technology is designed to work perfectly within narrow parameters. Ours is designed to work adequately under any conditions. She gestured to the modified fighter around her. I've successfully integrated their shield generator with our power core. The result is a shield system that's 60% stronger than standard Imperial equipment, but uses 40% less power. How is that possible? Asked Admiral Chen. Their engineers optimize for maximum performance under ideal conditions, Han explained. Our engineers optimize for reliability under terrible conditions. When you combine the two approaches, you get systems that work better than either one alone. She brought up a technical display showing the modifications. More importantly, I can teach any of our engineers to make these modifications in about 6 hours. We can upgrade our entire fleet with captured Imperial technology. Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward with interest. What about their weapons? What? Even better, Han said with excitement. Their particle cannons are incredibly powerful, but they require huge amounts of energy and very precise targeting. Our targeting systems are less accurate but much more adaptive. Combined together, we get weapons that hit harder and use less power. On the tactical display, Han could see the results of her work. Human ships that had been upgraded with captured technology were running circles around the remaining Imperial vessels. The enemy cruisers and destroyers were finding themselves outgunned by converted cargo ships and mining platforms. Sir, reported Captain Kim from the Times Dancing Crane *, the enemy fleet is trying to retreat. They're falling back toward the hyperspace jump point. Let them go, Admiral Park ordered. We're not conquerors. We're defenders. But Supreme Commander Vex had other ideas. Han watched on the communications screen as the Imperial commander stood up from his command throne. His face twisted with rage. All ships, full attack. Vex screamed at his officers. I don't care about casualties. Destroy every human ship. If we cannot conquer them, we will exterminate them. The remaining Imperial ships, about 30 vessels, turned back toward the human fleet. Their weapons charged to maximum power, ready to inflict as much damage as possible before they were destroyed. Sir, came Captain Yoon's voice from the science vessel Times Discovery *. They're targeting our civilian ships first. They're going after the hospital ships and supply vessels. Han felt anger burning in her chest. The Empire was deliberately targeting non-combatants. They were trying to kill doctors, engineers, and support personnel who were only here to help. All modified ships, engage immediately, Admiral Park ordered. Han watched as her upgraded human ships moved to intercept the Imperial attack. The modifications she had made were about to be tested under the worst possible conditions. A human destroyer that had been fitted with captured Imperial shields took a direct hit from an enemy dreadnought. The ship shook and sparked, but its shields held. Instead of being destroyed, it returned fire with modified Imperial weapons that punched through the enemy's armor like paper. It works, Han shouted with excitement. The hybrid systems are working perfectly. But the battle was far from over. The Imperial ships were fighting with desperate fury, knowing they were doomed. They concentrated their fire on single targets, trying to overwhelm the human defenses through sheer violence. Ma'am, called Technician Lee, the hospital ship Mercy Times is under attack. 3 enemy cruisers are focusing on her. Han looked at the tactical display and saw the problem immediately. The Mercy Times, was a pure support vessel with no weapons and minimal shields. It was trying to evacuate wounded from damaged ships, but the Imperial cruisers were hunting it like a pack of predators. Not on my watch, Han muttered. She activated the communication system and called out to the human fleet. All ships with upgraded systems, priority target designation. Protect the Mercy Times, at all costs. The response was immediate. Dozens of human ships that Han had personally modified turned toward the threat. Mining ships with captured Imperial weapons, cargo haulers with hybrid shield systems, and research vessels with enhanced electronic warfare capabilities all converged on the three enemy cruisers. The Imperial ships found themselves facing opponents they couldn't understand or predict. Their targeting computers couldn't track ships that changed their configuration every few minutes. Their weapons couldn't penetrate shields that adapted in real time to incoming fire. Within 10 minutes, all three enemy cruisers were disabled or destroyed. The Times Mercy Times continued its rescue operations, protected by a cloud of human ships that refused to let anything happen to their healers. "This is Supreme Commander Vex to all human ships," came a transmission from the Imperial flagship. The alien commander looked defeated, his proud bearing replaced by exhaustion and fear. We request terms for surrender." Admiral Park looked around at his officers, then at the other fleet commanders on the communication grid. Han could see the decision forming in their faces. "Terms?" Admiral Park replied calmly. "We're listening." Commander Yoon Ji-ho stood in the medical bay of the Times Mercy *, watching human doctors work alongside captured Imperial soldiers. The alien warriors looked confused and frightened, unable to understand why their enemies were healing their wounds instead of executing them. "Why?" asked one of the Imperial soldiers, a young creature with silver skin and large dark eyes. "Why do you help us? We came here to destroy you." Dr. Kim Sairon looked up from bandaging the alien's arm. "Because you're hurt," she said simply. "That's what doctors do. We heal people who are hurt." Commander Yoon watched the exchange with quiet satisfaction. This was why humanity had scoffed at the Empire's ultimatum, not from arrogance or stupidity, but from understanding something the Empire had never learned. "Commander," came Admiral Park's voice over the communication system, "we need you on the bridge. The Imperial commander wants to speak with someone about surrender terms." Yoon made her way through the ship's corridors, passing more scenes that would have confused the Empire's leaders. Human engineers were working with captured Imperial technical specialists, sharing technology and knowledge. Pilots from both sides were comparing stories about flying in space. Children from the civilian ships were playing games with young Imperial soldiers who had never seen such behavior. On the bridge, Admiral Park gestured toward the main screen. Supreme Commander Vex appeared there, but he looked nothing like the proud alien warrior who had delivered the ultimatum days ago. His 4 red eyes were dim with exhaustion and something that might have been shame. "Commander Yoon," Admiral Park said, "you've studied Imperial culture longer than anyone. I want you to explain our terms." Yoon stepped forward to face the alien commander. She had spent years learning about the Galactic Empire, trying to understand how they thought and why they acted as they did. Now she finally had the chance to share what she had learned. "Supreme Commander," she began respectfully, "your surrender is accepted. Your surviving ships and personnel will be given safe passage back to Imperial space." Vex's eyes widened with surprise. That's all? No demands for technology? No territory? No tribute?" "That's all," Yoon confirmed. "We want nothing from your empire except for you to leave our space and never return." The Imperial commander stared at her in confusion. "I don't understand. You have defeated us completely. You could demand anything you wanted. You could make us your slaves, as we intended to make you ours." Yoon nodded sadly. "Yes, we could. But then we would become exactly what we fought against. We would become conquerors instead of defenders." She gestured toward the medical bay where human doctors were still treating Imperial wounded. "Tell me, Commander, what did your intelligence reports say about human military capabilities?" "They said you were primitive," Vex replied quietly. "Weak ships, simple weapons, no unified command structure, an easy conquest." "And what did they say about human character?" Yoon asked. Vex paused, thinking. They said nothing about character. Why would that matter in war? "Because character is everything in war," Yoon explained. "Your intelligence counted our ships and measured our weapons. but they never tried to understand who we are as people. She brought up a display showing the battle that had just ended. You saw our ships change configuration in the middle of combat. You saw civilian vessels become warships, and warships become rescue boats. You saw miners and scientists fighting alongside soldiers and doctors. Yes, Vex said, still confused. Your military organization is chaotic. How do you coordinate anything? We don't have military organization the way you understand it, Yoon replied. We have something much more powerful. We have people who choose to work together because they care about each other. She changed the display to show the hidden human colonies throughout the sector. Your empire conquers through fear and force. You make people obey you because they're afraid of what will happen if they don't. But fear only works as long as you're stronger than everyone else. Humans work together through choice, Yoon continued. Every person in our fleet volunteered to be here. Every engineer who modified our ships did it because they wanted to protect their neighbors. Every pilot who risked their life did it because they believed in something worth fighting for. Vex leaned forward in his command chair. But choice makes you weak. People might choose not to fight. They might run away or surrender. That's what your empire believes, Yoon agreed. And that's why you lost. She gestured toward the tactical display showing the aftermath of the battle. When you fight people who are forced to obey, you only have to break their command structure. Destroy their leaders, scatter their forces, and they surrender. But when you fight people who choose to be there, destroying one leader just creates 10 new ones. Scattering their forces just means they attack you from more directions. Every person becomes a complete military unit by themselves. Yoon watched understanding begin to dawn in the alien commander's eyes. Your dreadnought was incredibly powerful, but it was still just one ship with one crew, following one set of orders. Our fleet was 800 ships with 800 crews, each one capable of adapting to any situation. You couldn't predict what we would do because we didn't know what we were going to do until we did it, Yoon explained. Every captain made decisions based on what they saw in front of them, not on orders from above. Supreme Commander Vex was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. Your people scoffed at our ultimatum. We thought it was arrogance. It wasn't arrogance, Yoon said gently. It was wisdom. We knew that any species capable of threatening to exterminate entire civilizations had already lost the most important part of warfare, which is knowing what you're fighting for, Yoon replied. Your empire fights to conquer and control. You measure victory in terms of worlds captured and populations enslaved. But what's the point of ruling over people who hate you? What do you gain from controlling resources if you have to spend all your time and energy keeping people from rebelling? She brought up images from human colonies, families working together, scientists making discoveries, artists creating beautiful things, children playing in parks under alien suns. We fight to protect this, Yoon said simply. We fight so that children can grow up free to become whatever they want to be. We fight so that scientists can explore new ideas without fear. We fight so that people can choose their own leaders and make their own mistakes and learn from them. And when you're fighting for something that important, you don't give up just because the enemy has bigger guns, Yoon continued. You find another way. You adapt. You innovate. You turn their strengths into weaknesses, and their assumptions into traps. Vex nodded slowly. I understand now why our intelligence was so wrong. We counted your ships and weapons, but we never measured your determination. There's something else you need to understand, Yoon said seriously. This wasn't just a victory for humanity. This was a demonstration of what happens when people are free to work together by choice instead of force. She looked directly into the alien commander's 4 red eyes. Your empire has conquered thousands of worlds using fear and violence. But how many of those conquered peoples are watching the news of this battle right now? How many are wondering if they could defeat the empire the same way we did? For the first time since the surrender, Vex looked truly frightened. You're saying this will inspire rebellions across the Empire? I'm saying that people everywhere want to be free, Yoon replied. And now, they know it's possible. They know that the Empire can be defeated by ordinary people who choose to work together. She stepped back from the screen. That's the real message you'll be carrying back to your leaders, Commander. Not that humanity has powerful weapons or clever tactics, but that we represent something much more dangerous. The idea that people don't have to live in fear. Your ships will be escorted to the edge of our space, Admiral Park added, rejoining the conversation. You'll be given supplies and medical care for your journey home, but if any Imperial ship enters human territory again, we'll be ready for them. And next time, Yoon concluded, we won't be the only ones fighting for freedom. The communication ended, leaving the human bridge in thoughtful silence. Outside the viewport, the surviving Imperial ships were already preparing to leave, escorted by human vessels to ensure they departed safely. Commander Yoon watched them go and wondered what stories they would tell when they reached home. Stories about a species that turned civilian ships into warships, that fought with maintenance robots and mining lasers, that treated their enemies wounded and sent their prisoners home with dignity. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were indeed dangerous not because they were conquerors, but because they were free.